have Hans Ståhl and Anders Forsén from NCAB with us, and I'll just leave the word to you. Go ahead.
Great to be here and see so many investors. And I've got a kind of a line. I'm not supposed to step over here, so normally I like to go over here, but I'm going to stand here this time. Anyway, so I'm going to present NCAB. We are producing printed circuit boards, basically used for all electronics. And it's Anders and me going to do this presentation, and Anders is CFO. Who we are and what we do. So we are 17 companies around the world, and we sell to 45 markets. And we have 398 specialists doing this, and we're using 22 factories in China, so we don't own any factories. They're just partners to us. And we like printed circuit boards. We're supplying them to demanding customers. So we are rather picky when it comes to customers. We will like to have the customer should be demanding, put a lot of demand on us. So what's a printed circuit board? You can actually see here at the far left, you have a bare board, and that's what we are doing. And then the boards being assembled, they're putting the components onto the boards, becomes a printed circuit board assembly, or in Swedish, it's kretskort. And we are making mönsterkort in Swedish. And then it becomes a product like this. And we don't produce circuit boards for everybody. We are focused on high mix, low volume, meaning that we are supplying only to industrial applications in a rather low volume. And we do like a lot of part numbers. We do like a lot of high-tech PCBs. And this is an interesting curve, and you can see at the end product here, the price of the circuit board equals about 0.5 to 2% of the total cost of the finished product. But when something goes wrong, it's about 50% of the cases when you need to make a recall from the market is due to the printed circuit board assembly. And you have probably seen that one when you have been kind of have some electronic gadget and you slam it into the table or you kick it with your foot and it starts to work. That's typical printed circuit boards problem. So quality is so essential when producing circuit boards. So why does a company like NCAB exist? If we go back to the year 2000, or a little bit previous to that, we had about 30 factories here in Sweden producing circuit boards. Today we have 2 small ones. So basically everything had shifted to Asia and then predominantly China. And then customers, they are still here in Europe and the US, they need the circuit boards. And then it's rather difficult to buy directly from China, so that's why they have to use companies like NCAB. So that's why we exist. So we are buying the circuit boards from factories, delivering to customers in USA and in Europe. And you can see we do add a lot of value to the customer. And one of the most important values is technical engineering support. So even if a customer designs the boards, they need the support to design it so it could be manufactured the correct way. For example, also we have unlimited capacity. See if this works. No. So it doesn't matter how much orders we get. We still have capacity because the factories we work with, they are so big. So they all have capacity. Sustainability, we have 100% control on what's happening basically in the factories. We know exactly how much salary all the workers have, also how the dormitories look like, extremely important. So our journey then, the company was founded back in 1993 in Sweden by 3 gentlemen that kind of have been producing circuit boards. They've owned their own circuit board shop. And they saw the agony in producing by themselves, came up with the brilliant idea, we own the customers, but we outsource the actual production. They're rather quick, realized that Sweden is too small, so they start to export to Denmark, Russia, Norway, Finland. And then we got new owners 2007, and we kind of pushed even harder with the export. And we started with Germany, Poland, France, and then we acquired 2 companies in the US back in 2012. And we have been growing every year since that, except 2009. That was a little bit of a slump year for us, but still we made a good profit, even that we have a downturn in revenue. We are the biggest PCB supplier with outsourced production in the world. We have one competitor, Fineline, a German company, doing about the same thing as we are doing. And then we have a long tail of smaller companies here. We are very much focused on industrial sector, some transport, telecom, medical, but industrial is the biggest part of our revenue. Sustainable business. We have as a target to live for like 100 years more. Because today companies may die also from not being ethical in the way they work. Not only losing money, but they are not ethical. So we focus a lot on this. So we have 3 strategies: supply chain. We are auditing all the factories when it comes to this sustainability and environmental issues. We are also very careful about our co-workers, all the employees, as our only asset is basically employees. And also customers is important. It's important that we teach customers how to design in a sustainable way. Because that is very important. Also how to ship the goods to avoid maybe air shipment. For example, this is from an audit we made in a factory in China. This is what sort of details we are checking in the factories. So we know that all this health equipment works 100%. And this is how engaged employees we have. This is awesome. This is really outstanding according to the company that made this employee survey. And this is the key for our success, to have engaged employees. And we don't have any bored employees, and that's fantastic. Out of 400 people, no one is bored at NCAB.
Okay, sorry. So some financials then. This is from the second quarter result. I mean, we had a strong year last year with a growth of over 15%, and we continue this second quarter as well. Show the growth of 14%. We also measure growth in US dollar because our business is very much US dollar focused. So we buy everything in US dollar, and we also invoice most of our customers in US dollar. So therefore we try to see that as kind of more of an organic growth. We had 4% second quarter. And we continue to improve the profit. We reached 37 million last year, this quarter, improvement of 17%, sorry. We're working with 4 segments. We said Nordic, which is Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, Estonia. There we had a very good growth this year. It's also connected to an acquisition we made in Denmark in March. So exclude that one, it's about 11% growth. We also have a rather healthy margin in Nordic. The focus in Nordic is not so much to grow and take on new customers, so therefore we have a very lean and efficient organization. Europe and East, we are also growing. There we focus much more on growth. We have much lower market penetration, which means that we also add on a lot of more employees, which cost money initially to have an organic growth. North America show a negative growth, and that was very much due to the tariffs that was increased in May. We had a very strong April, but we could see directly after 10th of May, when they increased the tariff to 25%, that the orders and the revenue fell. We can see it slightly going back up again now, but of course, it's a lot of turmoil in U.S. market right now. East is the operation we have in China and in Russia. Also strong growth, and we have had a strong growth for a number of years. And especially fun is to see the China business, that we are selling to a lot of local Chinese EMS companies. And that's due to we can provide them with good service and good quality, which they can't do by themselves from the factories. As we said, we made an acquisition in Denmark in March. It was a smaller company in the range of 5 million euro in revenue, and there are a lot of these kind of companies in the market, and we believe there will be a consolidation for us in the future. And that was a good add-on to our existing business in Denmark. And together we are now the market leader in Denmark. It was profitable and gave us directly profit earnings per share. Also, we had same culture and so on. And we can see that we could benefit from our purchasing power with better prices and so on, so we could improve the margin for the customers in the existing Multiprint business, and also from a working capital point of view, where we had much better payment terms, etc., which we could apply on the customers directly or factories directly. We have been growing top line, and we're also adding on our gross margin. So of course, we're working to give a lot of value add to the customers, so we can add a margin, and it has been stable growth. And you can see it's rather stable despite the currency fluctuations, since we are working with US dollar both as a purchase and sales currency. So then take the second quarter. We grew from 415 to 473 million. We had growth of 14%, as we said, in US dollar 4%. Yeah. And also improved the result. So we went up to about 7.9% EBITDA margin for the second quarter. And then going back to the segments, we can see in the Nordic, where we do have a good profitability, it went down a little bit second quarter, partly due to the acquisition in Denmark, because they had an EBITDA margin in range of NCAB Group, but lower than the Nordic EBITDA margin. Going to Europe, where we expect to grow actually more than we have done. The last couple of years, we have had a stronger growth, and we focus a lot of growing activities. We add on more people, and we also have a new company in Benelux since 1st of July. We opened up in Italy 2 years ago, which still are in a growing phase and making losses in the beginning. So I think here the margin could be much higher if we stop recruiting, but we would like to continue that to have a secure and organic growth. North America, as I said before, when the tariff was increased, we had a direct hit on the revenue. And of course, the market is still very, very unsecure in USA. We are still able to improve the profit a little bit. And East, which is our operation in China and in Russia. Here we see stable growth. We have had a good opportunity in Russia. We are growing year by year. And as we said before, we see a fantastic growth in the Chinese market. Originally, we started up in China. We thought that we should sell to European American customers, but we see much more now that we are selling to local Chinese EMS companies. And I think we can do that we have access to the good factories, and we can provide them with much, much better service than they get from the factories by themselves. So that's an important market for us. Some KPIs, we do have a very strong balance sheet. As Hans said, the only asset we have is the employees, so we don't have any investments. We have a very lean inventory. So the thing we have is some goodwill and there is some trade receivables. So I mean, working capital is less than 10% of the yearly revenue. So that means that we can grow very much without using any cash. We have a high cash conversion. We also have a very low debt at the moment, so we have a lot of headroom to borrow more money to do further acquisitions. Ska du sluta av eller?
So a summary. The summary of Q2. It's a good quarter for NCAB despite the raised tariffs. But we have seen there is a kind of a slowdown on the top line growth. And we think it's due to this sort of trade war discussions and hesitance. So it's a hesitant among some customers. Also, this Brexit could add something to the hesitance. Gross margin will increase. And we also have a strong profitability during Q2 quarter. Future. So we have 4 strategies going forward. And the first one is, of course, to increase the market share in Europe, USA, and East, as our market share is extremely low. The value of the circuit board business is $60 billion every year. And maybe a third of this is a high mix, low volume. It's the niche where we act in. So that means we have a market share of 1%. So there is so much more to do where we are, where we have NCAB companies. And of course, to work with the existing customers to be able to offer even more, to offer more technical support, more other logistic solutions, of course. And also expand geographically. Malaysia, Netherlands is the proof of that we have done that so. Consolidate the market is also important for us because you saw there is a long tail of smaller companies like us. So we believe that we have an opportunity in making acquisitions going forward. So there is a rather easy plan for us to go forward. Financial targets, 8% growth. Also EBITA, also 8%. And net debt is 2 times. And dividend expected to correspond to at least 50% of the net profit. Any questions? No, I'm not allowed to ask that, or?
I have some questions. All right, thank you. Well, great. I just have time for a couple of questions. I would like to ask one question regarding the tariffs and the trade war and so forth. Obviously, short term, that's quite a significant headwind, but I'm thinking sort of long term, do you see any negative implications of that? I mean, would you potentially maybe lose customers to someone locally? Or I don't know. How do you see that long term playing out?
Because it's going to be impossible for the Americans to source all the circuit board for American producers. That capacity does not exist. And capacity in China, they are building new factories basically every month. Is a new factory or addition being built in China with the brand new equipment and high quality equipment. So they will still be the world producer of circuit boards. So I think when the turmoil has everybody has come over this 25%, I think they will start to buy again, despite this higher cost. And we have sourced the Taiwanese factory, which is not a part of the 25%. And then they have about the same prices actually as the Chinese factories, including 25%. So.
Yeah, understood. And also one other thing. So the customers, like how sticky are the relationships there? You mentioned it's a very fragmented market and so forth. Is it easy to take customers from other competitors, or how does that work? How do you work on that?
From a customer point of view, they normally nominate a supplier for a project. And as a circuit board, it's kind of a sensitive product. You don't change factory the first thing you do. So normally you have a product, you run that product with a supplier. If it works, good. We're working on a long-term basis, and of course, so it's very rare that we steal a project. We get nominated for a new project, and that's the way we want to work. Also,
So could you just define you're saying you work in long term on this? Is that years? Is that half a year? How long are these projects usually? Maybe it depends, but in general,
It depends, but they're quite long, especially in the industrial sector. It could, I mean, if you deliver to ABB, the boards last for like 30 years. But in other applications, maybe it's 2 years, and then they make a change of the products. So it's much shorter cycles, but it can take 10, 15 years to get a new account, a new customer.
Understood. And in terms of the consolidation phase of this industry, I mean, you're the leader, but there are a few other guys who are also substantial size, let's say. Do you frequently see yourself competing with them, for example, with the recent acquisition, let's say, or?
Yes.
Yeah. And what sort of, I don't know if you've communicated that before, but what sort of multiples are you paying for these companies?
We have been working with about something between 5 and 7 times EBITDA.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, they are typically family-owned, small and mid-sized companies. So of course, there are not a lot of bidding activities in that way. So.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. And one thing that I saw as well, part of your strategy is to ensure further profitability of existing customers, and you gave a few examples. But could you just tell us a bit more in detail, like how you actually approach that and how you work with getting more out of the customer, basically.
Because when you start to work with a customer or a project, we do a lot of investments in the beginning, and we're still charging the same price for the circuit board. So for us, it's a big investment. It could take 2 years before we have any return of the money of that project. So it's more like that. We have kind of with some customers, we have worked our way through all this sort of agony in the beginning of project, and that's when the kind of profitability comes, when we have done the projects, when they're kind of ready, and we have been delivering board for like 2 or 3 years. So that's the philosophy behind this.
Okay, understood. And just in terms of consolidation again, are there certain geographic areas that are more interesting than others? Is there a void in certain areas where you see this is an opportunity, or is the fragmentation sort of similar across the globe, let's say?
I think our main focus is to have growth in Europe and still USA. Even if USA right now is a bit turmoil, but we believe this is a big market for us. The American market for PCB is as big in US as in Europe. And for the future, we would like to be in the same size in USA as well. So US and Europe is where we're focusing our acquisition targets or growth in.
All right, understood. That was all for me. I think that's all we have time for. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.